Okay, good morning, everybody. We are holding the Chitas on Friday, the sixth reading of Parshas Nosei. We're holding in chapter 7, verse number 42. Ayem Hashishi, it was the sixth day. Nasi Livnei God, it was to the Nasi, to the leader of the tribe of God, Al Yosef ben Duel. Verse 43, Kobanei Kalas Ketzav Achas, he's offering with one silver bowl. Shloishim Meir Mishkala, 130 shekel, weighed 130 shekel. Mizrach Echad Kesev, one silver sprinkle basin. Shivin shekel, weighs 70 shekel. Shekel HaKadosh, the holy shekel. Name Alem sailors, both of these bowls are filled with wheat, flour, shemen with oil, the mincha for meal offering. Kafachas, one spoon weighing shot of zav, 10 shekel. A lake tatus was filled with incense. Had echad, one young bull. Bembakar, that was one young bull. Ayel echad, one ram. Keves echad, one lamb. Ben shnasi leila, for it was the first year that was for a burnt offering. See, Izim echad lachatas, one young he goat for a sin offering. And for a peace offering was 2 oxen. Elam Chamisha, five rams. Atudim Chamisha, 5 lambs. Plus, when they shana Chamisha, there was 5 lambs, 5 he goats and 5 lambs. That was first year. The Karban Eliasaf ben Duel, this was the offering of Eliasaf ben Duel. Hemashvi in the 7th day, Nas Livnei Ephraim, was the head of the tribe of Ephraim. Elishama ben Amiyah, Elishama, the son of Amiyah. His offering, his kind of skefa and kesav achad was 1 silver bowl, shloishim me'el shekel, weighed 130 shekel. Mizrach 1 silver sprinkle basin, shiva shekel, that weighed 70 shekel. The shekel HaKadosh, the holy shekel, shnei malem sailors, both of them were filled with flour, Hashem and Belul Hashem, mixed with oil, the mitzvah for a meal off. Kaf achad, a sort of zav, 1 spoon weighing 10 shekel, malay tatus filled with incense. Arecha ben Bakar, 1 young bull. Ayel echad, 1 ram. Keves echad, 1 lamb. And shtasa for a burnt offering. 52. See, the Izim echad lachatas, 1 he goat for a sin offering. Zev echad shamim, and for a peace offering, Bakar shnaim, 2 oxen. Elam Hamisha, 5 rams. Atudim Hamisha, 5 he goats. Vasnei shana Hamisha, 5 lambs. Zeh karban. Elishama ben Amir, this is the sacrifice of Elishama ben Amir. Mashmina, the 8th day, called Nasl Nasher, the 8th day was the head of the tribe of Menashe. Gamliel ben Pedatsur, Gamliel, the son of Pedatsur. Carbonate Kaskasa Lachas, his offering was 1 silver bowl weighing 130 shekel. Mizrak Echa Kesev, and 1 silver sprinkling with the weight 7 shekel. The shekel HaKodesh, the holy shekel. Neim Aleim sailors, both of them were filled with flour, Lulav Hashem, and mixed with oil, the mitzvah for meal off. Kaf achas zav malek tatus, 1 spoon weighing 10 shekel, filled with gold, filled with incense. Had Echa ben Bakar, one young bull. Ayel Echad, 1 ram. Keves Echad, 1 lamb. And Shnasei, that was in the year Laila for birthday. Sirizim Echad Lachatas, and 1 he goat for a sin offering. Zev Achad Shlamim for a peace offering. Bakar Shnayim with 2 oxen. Elam Shnayim, Elam Chamisha, 5 rams. Atudim Chamisha, 5 he goats. Pasmei Shana Chamisha, 5 lambs. Zeh Karban Gamliel ben Pedatsur. Verse 60. Vayem Hachi Nasu Binyamin. The 9th day was the head of the tribe of Binyamin, Avidan ben Gedoni. He had 1 silver bowl, Shloishim Meir Mishkala, 130 shekel its weight. Mizrach Kesev, 1 silver basin, Shivim shekel, okay, weight 7. Shnei Malem sailors, both of them were filled with flour, Lulav Hashem mixed with oil, the mincha for an offering, for meal offering. Kaf achas al zamalek tetis, and 1 spoon weighing 10 shekel filled with gold, filled with incense. Par echad ben bakar, 1 young bull. Ayel echad, 1 ram. Keves echad, 1 lamb. And shnas leila was a year old. Tidiz echad achatas, 1 young he goat for sin offering. Zevach hashlamim bakar shnayim elim chamisha, and for a peace offering, 2 oxen, 2 chamisha, 5 lambs. Shana was in a year. Zeh korban avidah ben gedain, and this was the offering avidah ben gedain. Beim asiri, on the 10th day was Nasl ibn done. Yezer ben Amishadai. He gave 1 silver bowl weighing 130 shekel. And 1 silver bowl weighing 70 shekel. Shekel HaKadosh, the holy shekel. Both of them were filled with oil. Both of them were filled flour together with oil. The mincha 40 mil off. Kaf achas atzad azamalek tetis, and 1 spoon weighing 10 shekel of gold filled with incense. Barachaf and Bakar, he gave 1 young bull. Ayel echad, 1 lamb. Keves echad, then shnas leila, 1 ram, and one lamb. It was the first year. Siniziv echad achatas, 1 young he goat for a sin offering. For a peace offering with Bakar Shnayim, he gave 2 oxen, Elim Shnayim, 5 rams, Atudum Chamisha, 5 goats, Basman Eshana Chamisha, 5 lambs in the first year. Zeh Karban Achiezer ben Amisha. Verse 72. Vayem Ashti Yasa Yem. The 11th day was the Nasil of Neasher. Agiel ben Achra. He gave 1 silver bowl weighing 130 shekel. Mizrachecha Kesav, 1 silver basin weighing 70 shekel. Shiva shekel, shekel HaKadosh. Name of them said the bottoms of them were filled with flour, the little Bashem mixed with oil and mincha for it. Kaf achas asar zamalek tetis, 1 spoon weighing 10 shekel of gold filled with incense. Parecha ben Bakar, 1 young bull. Ayel echad, 1 ram. Keves echad, 1 lamb. Sizach alachatas, and 1 he goat for sin offering. Lezevach hashlamim bakar shnayim eilech chamisha, the peace offering was 2 oxen, 5 rams. Atudah chamisha, 5 he goats. Basman eshana chamisha, 5 lambs, a year old. Zeh karban Agiel ben Acharon. Verse 78. Vayem Hashem Asiyem Nasl Naphtali. 12th day. The head of the tribe Naphtali, Achida ben Ena. Karbanei Kalatz Katzav Achad. His offering was 1 silver bowl. Leishim shekel, Achas Leishim Mei Mushkala, 130 shekel was its weight. Mizrachecha Kesev, 1 basin of silver. Shiva shekel, shekel HaKadosh, weight 70 shekel. Shnei Meilim Selas. Both of them were filled with incense. The Lul Hashem mixed. Kaf achas asar zamalek tetis, 1 spoon weighing 10 shekel filled with gold was made of incense. Parecha ben Bakar, 1 young bull. Ayel echad, 1 ram. Keves echad ben shnas leila, 1 lamb that was a year old for a burnt offering. Tirizim echal achatas, 1 he goat for a sin offering. For the peace offering was 2 oxen, 5 rams, 2 chamisha, 5 he goats. Plus neshana chamisha, it's 5 lambs for the first within the first year. Zeh karban Achida ben Enon. This is the sacrifice of Achida, son. That finishes the Chumash. Okay, so we're holding the middle chapter, the 4th chapter of Shara Yichud of Amunah and the Tanya. And the Alter Rebbe is talking about the concept of Midos HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He gave an example of the sun and its sheath yesterday, beautiful analogy. And then he goes into what we expressed, our shvachim to the Eibishter. Chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He say, Agodil, that God is great. Chassidus says, Godil goes on account of the chesed, great. Aspect of kindness. Moshe Midazu, the attribute of Hagodil, the attribute of chesed, that spreads forth his life force into all worlds. So to create it for nothing to something, this is exclusively the praise of the only one, blessed be, because only God can create for nothing into something. Because no created thing can create out of nothing, to give it life. So creation ex nihilo, creation for nothing into something, is utterly beyond the realm of created beings. We only can take from something, even if we take the smallest particle in the world, and we create from it, it's still something was there before. There was there before. There was a molecule before. And ultimately, we have the capability to take from something and to make something else, or to make it bigger, or to reveal something from something. So even if all mankind were to gather together, and they would not be able to create even the wing of a gnat, an animated, so it would be impossible, because we cannot create something for nothing. And not only is chesed, only by God, the constant true giving, because God giving is from nothing to something, which is the ultimate of giving. They have the attribute of benevolence, whereby God creates everything from nothing into something, is also beyond the knowledge of all creatures and their understanding. Because it's ultimately not within the power of the intellect of any creature to comprehend through the faculty of Chachma, to understand to the faculty of Bina, understanding, this attribute, the midah of Chesed, it's impossible to understand how is it possible to take something from nothing and make it something. It's not in our mind, because it's impossible for us. We are created entities, and everything needs to be created to become into existence. So for us, how is it possible to go from nothing to something? It's impossible. We can't comprehend. We're trying. Everybody's trying from beginning of time. All scientists, no smart people are trying to figure out how did God create the world. How was this world created? Because the creation of something from nothing to something, that's one of the true wonders of the world. How do we come from nothing to something? What is creation? And that's why in the Torah it's expressed Agoda. That is true greatness. Greatness that is not comprehended, above and beyond our comprehension. Now, the Holy One, blessed be, and his attributes are in perfect unity. It is the Zohar, as the Zohar says, he and his causations, means his attributes are one. And therefore, Chesed of Atzilus is Ein Sof, because it comes from God, which is Ein Sof, unlimited. Therefore, what does the Zohar want to say? What does the Zohar want to say when it says that God and his attributes are one? The Zohar just wants to give you an analogy. Just like it's impossible to comprehend God, also impossible to comprehend the true attribute of Chesed, the world of Atzilus. It's impossible to comprehend God's greatness. That's why we only say HaGadol, because so it is written in the Torah. We wouldn't even be able to say that God is great if it's not written so in the Torah, because that would also be to say great. Great from what? So until now, we are speaking of a specific attribute of Gedula, Chesed. Rebbe now goes to say that just as this attribute, which is responsible for creation, Olam Chesed Yibana, the world was established, the attribute of Chesed, because God gave something that He didn't need. Usually, all of us give because we expect something, or because there's a need. Abishah created something that He has no need for. That's why He's the ultimate Chesed Chinam. That's why it's hard for us to comprehend. Chesed Chinam, unlimited Chesed, a Chesed that has no strings attached, a Chesed that is true kindness. So, to regard to the attribute of Gevura, a contraction. Function of this attribute is to conceal from the created beings the activating force within them, enable them to exist as tangible entities instead of being utterly nullified within their source. It's hard to understand. Even Gevura, we look as Gevura. The truth is that it's not that. It's much greater than that. The Alter Rebbe's words, just like it's beyond impossible for the mind of any creature to apprehend the attribute of Gedula, greatness. That creates a being out of nothing and gives it its life, as it's written. Olam Chesed Yibana. The world was built by and created through the attribute of kindness. So therefore, it's also hard to us to understand the attribute of God's Gevura state. Which the faculty of tzimtzum, contraction, which restrains the spreading forth of the life force from the attribute of Gevura. Preventing it from descending down and manifest itself in the creatures, and providing with life and existence in a revealed manner. In behest upon him, rather than in a concealed manner. Meaning divine activating force is at work within creation in a concealed manner. Thus, this attribute of Gevura and Tzimtzum that enables the life force to be concealed within the very creature it is created. But the life force concealed itself in the body of the created being, making it appear. To making the body appear, be created being as an independent existence. And making it appear as though the created being was not merely an extension of the life of the spirituality that creates it. Just like the diffusion of the radiance of the light of the sun. Right? We all know that without the sun, you're not going to have the ray. So everybody knows that the ray of the sun comes from the sun. But it's so hidden, the ray of the neshama, the life force within our body, and we don't think that we have an existence for ourselves. So the ray that comes in to our body is so contracted, more than even the sun, that is put into a sack, so to say, and hides the ray. Ultimately, we all know the sun goes away. It becomes night. Comes dark. Because the ray of the sun comes from the sun. But our body thinks that its own identity. We think we have our own existence. And our existence doesn't come from the light of our godly soul. Even though, in reality, created being has no independent existence. Which is Basa and Hashem. It's exactly like this, like the ray of the sun that comes from the sun. But ultimately, we feel our own existence. Or we imagine we have our own existence. Just as the sun's ray are merely diffusion for the sun, so to all creation is but the diffusion of God's activating force. So since, however, the created beings are continuously found in their source, unlike the sun's ray, which do leave their source, the divine source should cause them to be completely nullified within it. Just as the light of the sun in the state of complete nullification, which we found within the sun. So the question is asked, how is it possible for the light of God, the energy of God to be within us and to be hidden? It's the energy of God that's still connected to God. So it's even greater than the ray of the sun that comes from the sun. Because it's the energy of God that's mamish right there. That's the greatness of God. Agadol Agibar. That's the paradox. God is there and he contracts himself. Only God can do that. Only God can contract an infinite concept. Because even to say to contract an infinity is a contradiction to the word infinity. So only the Eibishter, only God can have the concept that he can contract himself. Nobody can contract him. No creative being can contract an infinite concept. A finite cannot contract an infinite. Only infinite can contract itself, which is hard for us to comprehend. How is that possible? That's the billion-dollar question. Can God create something he cannot pick up? To say he can do that is wrong. To say he cannot do that is wrong. Nevertheless, this nullification is not felt by created beings, even though they are but a diffusion of God's active force. With the capacity of self-concealment, it's precisely the restraining power of the Holy One, blessed be you, who is omnipresent. It's impossible to comprehend. He's infinite. So God doesn't want to pick up the rock. As we explained once in the class, God, the greatest, when you say, can God create something that he doesn't want to pick up, a rock that doesn't want to pick up? And the answer is the human being is the biggest rock. The human being, God gives free choice. Automatically, he says, I'm not going to pick it up. I can't pick it up. Only a human being can pick up himself. If I'm gonna pick it up, then I take away his free choice. So he's the rock that has to be picked up himself. So we are the rock that God says I can't pick up. Not that I can't pick up. I don't want to pick up. You need to pick up yourself. And that is the greatness of God. That is not the great, that is the strength of God. God controls himself, so to say. He contracts himself to give me free choice that I should pick up myself. That's why it's the greatest gullus of God when he sees a person that doesn't pick up himself. Does God want to pick him up 100%? But he has to give that person free choice. So God has to contract himself. And we would never be able to contract God. If God would reveal himself, we'd never be able to contract it. That's the power. God is ultimately the ultimate aspect of kindness. And at the same moment, God is the ultimate concept of self-control. Self-contraction. But only God can contract himself. That's always there was an expression, the Alter Rebbe, a Jew not he wants, not he can be cut off from God. It's impossible. Because since God is within you, and God is infinite, you cannot control an infinite concept. You only can control a finite concept. You can't control an infinite concept. So that God hides himself, not only God can hide himself. Not we can hide from him, but we can even hide him. So God is Kol Yachol, omnipotent. Kol Yachol expresses itself not only in his ability to bring forth light and bestow life, but also his ability to conceal the same light and life of the beings he created. Samsim Achais. Eivish only is the one who can contract his own capabilities. Anishpa Veru, people are still to for the comes forth from his mouth, so to say, and to conceal it. So his battle like Gufa Nivra Messiah, so the body did that all. The Eivish contracted himself for my sake, so that I would be able to have self. The body of the created being shall not become nullified out of existence. And hence, notwithstanding the fact that the created being is but the diffusion of the ray of its source, and thus enables it to perceive itself as an independent existent entity. And that's where Gevura and Chesed need to go together. On one hand, I have to realize that I'm created by God. God's kindness, I'm in this world. And because of God's contraction, therefore I feel that I've chosen things. I can choose things, and I've chosen what's right over wrong. I have chosen. It's because the Eivish contracted himself. At the same moment that he gave, at the same moment, he contracted himself. And this concept, it's hard for us to comprehend. Again, like it's impossible to comprehend as an infinite thing becomes contracts itself. It doesn't make sense. That is a contradiction. If it's infinite, it cannot be contracted. And if it's not infinite, it doesn't need to be contracted. It's already contracted already. Any physical thing is already contracted. It already has its limitations of time and space, etc. The Eivish is above time and space, comes into time and space, and that's a difficult thing to comprehend. As the Alter Rebbe says, it's impossible to comprehend. To understand the nature of tzimtzum and concealment, I can understand how I can hide myself. But I can't, it's hard for me to comprehend, it's impossible for me to comprehend how an infinite God can contract itself. And to comprehend that nevertheless the tzimtzum, notwithstanding that created itself by created living it was created ex nihilo. At the same moment that he is here, he's created for nothing. However, since creation is an act of revelation rather than an act of concealment, creation ex nihilo should surely consist of revelation of the divine first with the created being. How then do both of these things manifest itself at the same time? If it's an expression of kindness, then it's the opposite of contraction. If it's expression of contraction, it's not kindness. How do we have both these entities at the same time? On one hand, the revelation of divine force. On the other hand, the condensement and the concealment of this life force. So the created beings will be unaware of it, consider themselves to be independent existence with existence entities and not utterly nullified within their source. Indeed, paradox of tzimtzum defies the comprehension of mere created beings. Why? Because we cannot comprehend God. And that's what the Zohar meant. Just like you cannot comprehend God, can't comprehend his causations, his attributes of chesed and gevurah. Moshe says, so just as it's within, it's not within the capacity of the mind of any creature to comprehend the essential nature of creation, of being out of nothing. How do we come from nothing? And that's why humanity doesn't want to accept it. Human beings, like Jews, have a munah. But human beings don't want to accept it. They want to say they came for something. What's the original source? Has to be something. It tells the original source is nothing. Yesh mi'ayin. You're something from nothing. Since the capacity of tzimtzum emanates from the divine attribute of gevurah, one might erroneously to infer that actually serves to create an independent and existent entity. Meaning, not only does the creative being regard itself son, but the creative version, maybe you'll say maybe the other way. To create the world through gevurah, separate himself from the world. I can create a separate entity from himself. So much of God causes this concealment. And the attribute of gevurah, the ability to conceal, is real and effective as the attribute of gedulah, the ability to reveal. We may mistakenly liken the creation to the sun's ray insofar as they exist beyond the confines of the sun's globe. Owing this possible error, Alter Rebbe now explains that God's power to reveal and his power to conceal are truly one and the same. For revelation and concealment are respectively the light, earth, and its vessel, kalim, which are fused in completely and total unity. That's how he's going to answer the question. The Rebbe is explaining the same thing. Maybe to us, chesed and gevurah are opposite, but the truth is they're all the same. They're both the concept of revelation. Moreover, the state in which they exist in the supernal source, they are not only united, they're actually one and the same. It's exotomic. That the entity can conceal itself from itself. An illustration of this concept is found in Shulchan Aruch Chaim, and states that covering one's head with one's hand does not serve as a valid head covering, because the head and the hand are part of the same self. The hand cannot be so concealed that which the head itself is reveals. It's one body. Same is true here, since the power to reveal and the power to conceal are essentially one and the same power, which is the manifestation of God's limitless ability. It is impossible at tzimtzum to bring about a real concealment that will be regarded when viewed from the divine perspective. Tzimtzum only enables created beings to perceive themselves as independent existence. God does not view them this way at all. So there's the way, in essence, as after that, the way God looks at tzimtzum. God looks at tzimtzum both as revelation. We look at tzimtzum, as we look at the contraction as a separate concept from chesed. So to us, chesed and gevurah, so kindness and severity are two different attributes, total two different attributes that are seemingly not only two different attributes, but they're contradicting attributes. And they conflict with one another. To us, these two concepts conflict with one another. But to God, as Alter Rebbe will explain, to God, they are actually the exact same concept. Both of them are for the sake of revelation, the concept of revelation of God, self-understood. God could not reveal himself to the physical world without this contraction. So therefore, ultimately, the concept of the contraction and the concept of revelation are both revelation. And therefore, they're not a contradiction to God. They're only, to us, a contradiction between chesed and gevurah. And that's why we struggle in this world between chesed and gevurah. But the Eibishter has no contradiction between what's chesed and what's gevura, because both of them are there to reveal, to be the concept of an attribute, the concept of a sfira, as the Arizal called a sfira, something that shines. Both of them by God are a concept of revelation. Love to continue, but here is where Tanya ends today. I hope and pray that you will continue to learn the Tanya tomorrow by yourself. And we will all continue on Sunday at 8 a.m. to continue with the Shita. So today is the 13th day of the month, which is chapter 69, 70, and 71 in Tehillim. We do those 3 chapters. You would do the Chitas of the day. I wish you all a wonderful and beautiful day and a wonderful and beautiful Shabbos. God bless you all.